So, if I told you that I was a Republican and I were to run for office as a Republican, and I told you I'm a good Republican, but every donation you give to my campaign also goes to support Republican infrastructure. You give me $1, 50 cents goes to my campaign, 50 cents goes to the RNC. Right? Hey, I'm a good Republican. I swear. I'm not a racist Republican. I'm not a homophobic Republican. I love trans people. I love black people. I love immigrants. It's just, I also work for the RNC, and every time you give me money, you're also giving them money. So with that in mind, John Iadarola went on his show and brought out what I like to call beta energy. Now, I like John Iadarola. I don't watch his show because I don't support Republicans, and I refuse to give money to Republicans. But I think this guy is a good guy. So if John Iadarola, if you're watching my show, if you're watching this, someone sends this to you, I think you're a good guy, and I want you to do better. Okay? But I saw this shit, man. I saw it live, and I was like, let's watch.
So, just to clarify, I believe that trans men are men, trans women are women, and the trans community and trans individuals deserve our respect, compassion, empathy, support, and representation. That's what I think in general, and I have always tried to use my platform to advance those values, but also to make clear what I think about specific issues that might affect that community. You know, of course, I am a person. I have more than a few faults, flaws, and areas of ignorance that I believe I have a lifelong duty to try to minimize as much as possible. But on specific issues, I will say that I have always been supportive of a variety of different types of gender affirming care, including hormone replacement therapy. But more importantly than my actual support for those against an ongoing assault in state legislatures around the country from Republicans, I also believe that it's not the sort of thing that even I should be talking about. Side effects for a medication, that's for doctors and families to speak about. I will talk about it when necessary, but I also believe that, you know, the overwhelming consensus of doctors is what should, you know, drive that. So just to be clear about that, when it comes to sports, I have always been incredibly supportive of people playing for the sports teams that match their gender identity. I don't believe that the vast majority of people that have made this such a big issue over the past few years truly care about women's sports literally at all. They transition quite naturally and fluidly from invoking women's sports to then mocking it on the other hand. As a person who does support and attend women's sports on a regular basis, I've never understood that. I believe that sports are not harmed by people playing for the teams that they identify with. I think that they are strengthened, and I think there are massive benefits to be had for the individuals as well. We could go through a lot of these different issues. Obviously, I have a massive issue with the crusade that we're seeing across these and other issues. That's where I stand. I hope, always tried on this and other issues to use what limited
beta. I'm sorry. And someone had to say it. Okay? Beta. Now, I want to describe to you something about my political philosophy, which is, where is your sphere of influence? Now, first of all, before I get to that, this is thoughts and prayers. That's all he did. Thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers. Oh, you're a trans TYT viewer? Well, thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers. That's what this is. Huge beta energy, thoughts and prayers. That's all he did. Now, John Iadarola has no problem justifiably going after Ron DeSantis. But I've got news for John Iadarola. You have no influence on national elections. Now, I'm willing to maybe say you got like 0.00001% influence on national elections. But you want to know what you do have, John Iadarola? To my understanding, the way I understand it, I don't watch the Young Turks. Isn't John Iadarola the second most popular show after the main show, after TYT, the show? Isn't The Damage Report the second most popular show on the network? Right? Isn't it? I mean, I could be wrong. For him to do this total beta energy garbage, this thoughts and prayers bullshit, to me, proves that politics for people like John Iadarola and people, just politicians in general, because this is a very politician response. This is a politician response, okay? This is like a Nancy Pelosi tier shitball response, okay? It's just a brand. I need you all to understand. These people don't actually put their money where their mouth is. It's a brand. What shirt am I wearing? What color hat am I wearing? What logo is on my sneaker? That's what politics is to people like this. Now back to the localized sphere of influence thing, right? He has almost 0 to 0.0001% influence on national elections. But in a localized sphere of influence, he is the second most popular show on the Young Turks. The second most popular show on the Young Turks. Imagine an alternative where John Iadarola said, you know what? The shit that Anna's been saying, the fact that Benny left the show, it's too much for me. I can't stay with the Young Turks. I can't support this. But he doesn't actually care about the issue. Now, I say this with all due respect. I think John Iadarola is a nice guy. But he is not someone that actually cares about this. I'm sorry, he isn't. Actions speak louder than thoughts and prayers. Okay? He cares more about access to his fancy studio where he can film his show more than human rights and the rights of his coworkers. He cares more about his platform and his current amount of money that he's making than he cares about his only transgender coworker being bullied out of the company. Imagine if the second most popular TYT show threatened to strike, threatened to leave. But he doesn't give a fuck because he is too comfortable. And this is cisgender privilege. This is what you're watching. Ally in name only. Cisgender privilege. Benny does not have cisgender privilege. She can't stay at the network and just grit her teeth and deal with the constant harassment from her coworkers, because that's mentally damaging. John Iadarola can. And he is using his privilege to support those that are hateful in his company. He is using his privilege to become an anti-movement, politician-like individual. Now, I'm sorry. He's a nice guy. But being a nice guy does not mean that I have to fucking suck his dick on a daily basis when I disagree. This is some beta energy garbage. This is cis privilege. This is, I don't give a fuck. I don't even want to be talking about this right now, but I feel compelled. And he's going to go on his show and talk about Ron DeSantis, but he's afraid to say Anna's name. Because he's afraid. He's cucked. He's cucked. He loves his fancy studio. Now again, would he get fired? Think about it. Would Cenk and Anna fire their second most popular show? If John Iadarola stood up for Benny and said, I'm going to go on strike publicly, said Anna Kasparian is saying some crazy stuff, I don't agree with it, in fact, I think what she's saying is horrible, would they fire him? Would they fire the second most popular show in TYT? Let them fire you. Do you understand what kind of, that's a career maker. That's a career maker. You got fired from the so-called self-proclaimed homo progressives for standing up for transgender coworkers when your boss went on an all-out public hate campaign against trans people. That's a career maker. That's shit that gets you a Wikipedia article. That's shit that gets you a new fucking subsection of your Wikipedia article. That is a major career move, but he's too much of a beta. He's cucked. He's too comfy. He doesn't care. Thoughts and prayers is all we get from John Iadarola. So again, he's a nice guy, whatever. If you think that if John Iadarola listened to my video, if you think that this would move him, feel free to send him my video. Maybe I was too mean. I'm not sure. Feel free to be a messenger on my behalf. Because this is garbage. I'm telling you, this is garbage, man. And I don't give a fuck about your thoughts and prayers. I really don't. I really don't care about your thoughts and prayers. I just don't. Actions speak louder than words. Thoughts and prayers are meaningless to me. And so I gotta say, if you subscribe, when I say subscribe, I mean give money to. If you give money to the Damage Report, you're giving money to Anna Kasparian. You're giving money to Cenk Uygur. And you're giving money to an active, all-out transphobic hate campaign moving liberals to the right. And until John Iadarola realizes what kind of shit he's gotten himself into, and I don't think he wanted to be in this position. I don't think anybody wanted to be in this position. But until he realizes that, he is siding with the enemy. He is siding with the oppressor. Like I said at the start of this, if I was a Republican candidate and I was like, trust me, bro, I'm not racist. Trust me, bro, I'm not transphobic. But also, all the money you give me also funds the Republican infrastructure, which is racist and transphobic. Would you not feel a little weird about donating to my campaign? Right? But he's too comfortable. He's too comfortable, and he's got cis privilege. And the only thing he can tell Benny and the other trans people that watch TYT is, I don't have your back, but what I do have are thoughts and prayers. And again, I say this in a constructive way. I'm not trying to go out there and say John Iadarola is canceled. I think he's a nice guy. I think he has the ability to do good things. Right? I see promise in this motherfucker, and I say that with all due respect. Okay? But this ain't it. This is some beta energy. This is some weakling stuff. And I'm sorry, I don't care about your track record. You have a localized sphere of influence that gives you undue power that no one else has in your company, and instead of using it to help the people you proclaim that you like to help, you're going to throw it into the toilet and press the flush. Because he's too comfortable. He likes his studio too much. He likes his current setup too much. Right? He likes doing this show with the Young Turks cameras too much. He likes having the Young Turks producers too much. And he's too much of a beta to do anything else about it. So, I don't know. Feel free to tell him what I said. I know a lot of y'all sent this to me as well. And I know a lot of y'all feel the same way I do. But this is what a politician would say. This is like, you remember when Donald Trump would say some racist shit? And then every other Republican would be like, well, you see why this is wrong, is like blah, 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 but we're also not I don't know. Cis privilege, bro. You can't ever, you cannot ever count on people like John Iadarola to have your back. Because they won't. They won't. Right? You can never, ever count on these guys. Because they're going to tell you how much they love you. But when push comes to shove, they're going to run away in the opposite direction and leave you high and dry every single time. Because it doesn't affect them. It doesn't affect them. And they're too comfortable. And that's what happens when you become rich in the media space. I can tell you right now, I don't know anything about John Iadarola's finances on a personal level, but I can tell you, if he's got the second most popular show on the Young Turks, he is rich. He's doing really well. And he is too comfortable for even a small risk. Really, what's the risk? What's the risk when you think about it? What's the risk? Oh, you're going to get fired? Really? You're going to get fired from the Homo Progressives for standing up for trans rights? That's a career maker. He'd probably end up getting more money if he went independent. If he went independent and brought his fans with him, then the cut that TYT gets from every membership would no longer go to TYT. He would get the full cut. So it's not about money. It's not about action or beliefs. It's about comfort and privilege. And John Iadarola has way too much of both. Sorry, not sorry.